Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Nona Sports Show. I am your host, Edgar Rodriguez, back for another episode, back for a new week. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the long weekend. Of course, happy Martin Luther King Day to everyone. But today, we're back to talk about more soccer news. So we have a bunch of games to recap, a bunch of incredible results, maybe shock results even, that we have seen in this last weekend of games. Then, of course, Champions League is back, so we have to preview the biggest Champions League headliners, and finally, just cover all the news, right? All the other news, so transfer news, things managers have said in their press conferences, and so much more. So thank you for joining us alongside me, Patrick De Leon. I've dragged you back into the studio. How are you, my man?
I'm all good. I'm excited to get another episode done. I'm super excited about what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be a fun one.
It is going to be a fun one. So we're going to start with a quick little note on our local Nona teams. We have two over at the Dimitri Cup in Longwood Ranch. We saw the 2014 girls reach the final. Unfortunately, a 3-1 loss to DME from Sarasota. But, a final run, not a bad way to start the year.
No, but of course, maybe still a bit disappointing. Of course, it's a final, but not a bad way to start the year, especially so early on as well. Making it to the final, showing and playing that you're still capable of competing and making it all the way to the final. It's always still a good achievement, but of course, it's always nice to bring home some silverware.
That's very true. That's
it
very
happens
true.
To everybody at some
point.
point.
Yeah, they'll learn from it. Of course, the 2014 girls black team coached by Coach Terry, they have a lot of quality on that team.
Still very young also.
Yeah, of
2014.
Course. Of course.
Come on.
So that'll be encouraging, right?
Yeah,
Heading into the rest.
Lesson. Everybody goes through it.
Right. That'll be encouraging for them. Hopefully they bounce back quickly. And then the 2016 black boys team, they went there, lost in the quarterfinal stage. Again, unfortunate result, but the Dimitri Cup is it's a tough tournament to play in. I believe it's the 20th or 22nd annual Dimitri Cup, so it is a traditional tournament. Our team's making us proud over there. It's a great start to the year for them. Right, let's head into the European news, right? We saw a bunch of games all over Europe.
Of really fun results.
A lot of interesting results, too. Maybe unexpected results as well. But we're going to start at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal 2, Aston Villa 2. Now, the run of play in this game was mostly Arsenal's. We went into a 2-0 lead. Havertz scoring the second goal. It was Martinelli.
Shocker.
I know, right? Havertz on the score sheet. I couldn't believe it myself. But Martinelli scoring that first goal. Emi Martinez in the Villa goal almost keeping it out. But it did cross the line. So 1-0. Havertz scored 2-0. And then Villa, though. In that second half, they didn't have much to offer in the first half. But boom and boom, right? 2 quick goals. And honestly, it's a surprising result.
It is, but also most importantly, where does this put Arsenal in terms of the title race for the Premier League? Because, again, another result dropped, another 2 points down the drain. We also know how important 1, 2, 3 points are in the Premier League, especially when you're competing, with Liverpool, with Manchester City. But I feel like with this season, how it's shaped up to be, this is the most open, I feel like, not only for the title, but for Champions League, for everything else below it. This is the most open it's been. You see so many other smaller teams as well, like Brentford or Chelsea. Chelsea, small team. My fault.
Yes.
Like Brighton, for example, Fulham, Bournemouth, all these smaller teams making it super competitive now. Where does this put Arsenal in terms of not only just Premier League, but Champions League hopes?
So Champions League, top 4 is a lock. I
would say so,
yeah.
But at this point, can you really be too comfortable?
No, not at all. I don't think there's any room for complacency there. Although I think they're odds-on favorites to finish in the top 4.
Yeah.
But in terms of the
enough.
title, we saw Liverpool go to Brentford. We spoke about it on the last episode. Take the 3 points. Darwin Núñez off the bench, actually making a huge impact for Liverpool. Something we haven't really seen him do all that often.
Yeah.
But man, another game where they're going to drop points.
And you have Nottingham Forest breathing down your necks. You're both teams tied 44 points apiece, 6 behind Liverpool.
So, also, Liverpool, there's a 6-point gap now. But Liverpool have a game in hand, remember. They couldn't play Everton because of the weather a few weeks ago. So if they win, that's a 9-point gap. And I'm sorry, but I don't see Liverpool losing 3 games.
I don't either. I mean, of course, we've seen it before.
We've seen it happen
from other teams, but it's like right now, this Liverpool side, you don't see it happening. That's why it's more important that teams like Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, teams that are competing for the title right now, really, it's just those two. It's it's not Manchester City, it's not Chelsea anymore. It's Liverpool, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, and Arsenal, Nottingham Forest cannot slip up one bit, or else your title hopes are also gone. So a result like 2-2 Aston Villa to Arsenal does not do Arsenal any favors
at all, no. And we've seen Liverpool, they're such a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Under Arne Slot, they're just not giving other teams any margin, right? So if the other teams aren't at their best, Liverpool have shown that they're going to take advantage of it this season.
Yeah.
And I think, like last season, we lost at home against Villa, and that was the result you can kind of look at and say, those 2 points that City won the league by last season, you could pinpoint that game.
It's like every season there's always like one game where it just decides. Like you already know, like before the season even finishes, like, oh, if we lose or we win the league, it's because of that result.
Yeah, so
it's one of those things.
Again, Villa at home, Unai Emery does it again against us. He did terribly when he was our manager, but loves taking points off of us. Let's move on. This is a result I enjoy more. Everton 3.
Yes.
By the way, Everton 3, when did we think we would say those 2 words consecutively?
Everton 3, before halftime.
Before halftime. Tottenham 2. They lose again.
Oh,
Big Ange.
Surely on the hot. We've talked about this before. Talking about is Ange Postecoglou on the hot seat with Tottenham now? Oof. And this is a bad result. Yeah? Because, Everton, they're also kind of fighting relegation. They're below Tottenham, one place below Tottenham. So they're both down in the pits right now.
Isn't it crazy? This was 16th against 15th.
Yeah. Like Tottenham at 15th, Tottenham with 24 points, Everton at 20. 18th place, Ipswich are at 16 points. So not even 10 points ahead of relegation right now.
Nope.
So Kulusevski and Richarlison with the consolation goals near the end of the game. But this is a huge result for Everton more than anything, that are fighting for that survival, I feel. What do we feel about this game and its results?
So Everton got David Moyes, of course,
yes.
And so far, so good.
Big result with the new change lineup in the manager,
Right, and of course he was there previously. He had a great stint at Everton. That's what he's mainly known for. Of course, his times at West Ham as well. Yeah. But Everton's like his club, right?
Yeah, it almost feels I feel like he always comes back like every year
he
or something.
He
right?
does.
It's like,
he always
it feels
goes,
that way. It's like, oh, he's there again.
He's always back at his former clubs, and that game. Everton were up for it. Goodison Park is tricky. If you don't take your chances, it will eat you alive. And it doesn't matter which team goes there. We saw Calvert-Lewin with a fantastic goal to open the scoring. Yes. He had 3 defenders around him. A little drop of the shoulder. Beat Kinski as well in goal. And then at 1-0, Son had a huge chance. Laid right to him in the middle of the box. Pickford got down in time. And I think it's just it exemplifies the lack of confidence Heung-min Son has at the moment.
Right.
He has no support.
He has no support. I mean, Tottenham, of course, they're going through a big injury crisis right now. So
very true.
Their squad is depleted. You have players playing out of position. You have players that don't have a lot of experience under their belt either, stepping up to fill in for those positions, right? But I mean, that's also part of the sport.
Yeah,
it's part of it. You have to learn how to deal and manage these kinds of things. And unfortunately for Ange Postecoglou, I don't think he's kind of in a bind right now. There's only so much he can do, but it is your responsibility to understand that, okay, our squad is depleted. Sure, we may not come out with a win, but you got to come out with a draw. Your best performances all the time, Right. Sure, easier said than done. I get it.
Of course.
Easier said than done, but it's also part of your job to instill that belief, that determination, that motivation within your squad, even at the lowest points. It's your job to do that as well. And it's on the players just as much.
100%.
To still give it their 110%.
And I also don't think Ange is helping himself. The way he approaches press conferences, since he joined Tottenham,
I think he's put unnecessary pressure on himself and the players.
Yes, we're going to talk about Amorim a little later, but he's again one of those managers who's like, I'm not going to change. Whether we lose every game or we win, I'm not going to change the way we play. We saw them come out with a back three, which was a little different approach to what he usually does, but that didn't help. If anything, it made it worse. It's just everything he's trying is not
again, we've
working.
seen it work in other countries. We've seen it work in Scotland. We've seen it work in Japan. We've seen it work in Australia. But this is the Premier League.
Yep.
You have to be practically on point every single week, because you will still lose to Everton. You will still lose to Ipswich. You will still lose to whichever team is competing for relegation. They will take points off you if you do not adapt every week.
And that is what we're seeing with Tottenham. Also,
I think it's catching up to them now.
The way he approaches press conferences as well, fighting with the journalists. I'm sorry, but they're going to keep coming at you.
I get it. I can understand. Some journalists do ask some.
Of course.
Interesting questions. Does that really need to be asked? Or you already know the answer to.
Right.
But it's so important to be literate in media. Just competent with media. That's why you have certain guys that never do press conferences. Mm-hmm. That's why you have some guys that always do press conferences, because they know how to read the situation. They know exactly what to say. In this case, I think Postecoglou, he needs... I don't even know if he'll have the time to learn how to do that, because who knows where he'll be.
Great point. Great point.
Right now.
The reports are that Daniel Levy, of course, the chairman at Tottenham, is going to give him a couple more weeks, maybe.
I think this is something I said to you too, maybe another month. But if it's another month of just no results, surely he's gone. Or whatever happens in the Carabao Cup, I think that's what the deciding factor.
I think he's going to wait for that.
If he loses then and there, I think his time at Tottenham is up.
And we've seen him sack Mourinho. Mm-hmm. We've seen him sack Antonio Conte. So Postecoglou has to turn things around for Tottenham.
I like him too. I want him to succeed. But it's just also, it comes down to the players just as much. It's like another kind of United situation. It's the players. You know that not all of them are just up for the job. You know that, but it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, what choice do you make? Do you cut a bunch of players, a total rebuild, and then commit to 2-3 years, of Angeball, right?
Right.
But you have to commit to one or the other.
And to be fair, we've seen whenever he has a fully fit squad, it works. They are an entertaining team to watch. It is.
Sure, they bleed goals anyway, but they score 6, that kind of thing.
So, also, by the way, that's a great point again. 15th place, but they have a +9 goal difference. I don't think that's ever happened.
Right, so moving on.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's go to Spain now, Patrick. Yes. Barcelona, we heaped the praise on them last time. Oof. We were seated right here. Of course, they beat Real Madrid 5-2 in the Supercopa. We're like,
sure. But
Hansi flicked the switch, right?
Right.
But then they go to Getafe. 1-0.
Draw 1-0 to Getafe side that's sitting at 16th, just 1 point above the relegation zone.
Wow.
So in La Liga, it's not that much easier than the Premier League. It's just as competitive, because you've seen now Barcelona drop from first place just a few weeks ago to now they're at third, 7 points behind Real Madrid that are now in first place at 46 points.
Isn't that incredible?
So this title race is definitely going to go into the final few weeks of the season, I feel.
I think it will, but also, isn't it interesting, right? Because Real Madrid, they took advantage, beat Las Palmas 4-1. We'll go into depth a little later. But the 2 games that Barca has played Real Madrid, Barca has won.
Yes.
So head-to-head,
it's like
Barca has their number.
It's another one of the things that we just talked about with Arsenal. They have to be winning these games against the teams that on paper, you should be winning. You should not be dropping 2 points against, because Koundé scored in the 9th minute. Getafe scored a little bit after in the 34th, and then there was not much action afterwards. No. But it's like, those are the results you just know as a player and as a coach. It's like, you totally could have gone away with 3 points. And again, we've seen title races be decided by 1 or 2 points. And this is probably going to be one of those games where they look back on and be like, man, what if we could have taken the full 3 points rather than just 1?
Absolutely. And, you don't, yes, okay, all well and good, win the big games. Mm-hmm. But you have to be able to play Getafe, Valencia, other teams down there, Espanyol, right? Just to name a few.
Yeah.
You have to win those games, because if you don't pick up those 3 points, you're going to suffer at the end of the day in the league table.
Absolutely.
And that is what we're seeing Barcelona. That's their downfall this season. They're not picking up those little points.
And
we saw them beat Mallorca, but...
It's so interesting that considering just how hot they started this season,
yes,
now they're facing a slump in league play. Yeah. They really have not been up to par the past month or so.
But then they play in the Copa del Rey. They're fine.
Domination.
Champions League, they're sitting second.
Right. They're
very interesting.
It is, but could it just be that they're putting more effort into those results, more silverware at the expense of La Liga?
Potentially, but that is a risky game to play for Barcelona and Hansi Flick.
It's one of the more interesting aspects, I think, of just being a manager. How do you decide what to prioritize? Okay, I'm going to rest players for this matchup. I'm going to rest players for this matchup. But we're going to commit more to Champions League. Oh, maybe not so much Champions League, but we want to commit more to La Liga, Because it's so hard to win everything in one season.
Yeah.
You have to make sacrifices when needed. And just hope that those sacrifices work out in your favor in the end.
Absolutely. So Hansi Flick with a lot of questions to answer for Barcelona. Finally, in this first segment, Leganés.
Oh, this is a big one.
Had Atleti at home. And they score, take the 1-0, take the 3 points. Antoine Griezmann had the chance to equalize. We've seen him have an incredible season. Unfortunately, faltering in this moment in the game. But Atleti's 14-win streak comes to an end right before playing Leverkusen in the Champions League.
Yes. Well, I guess in a way, maybe...
Do you think it takes some pressure off of them?
I was gonna say better to lose now than later, but now they're behind Real Madrid in La Liga.
Exactly, they had jumped in the lead and already surrendered.
Now it's one of those awkward parts. I think where it's like okay, because similar. A good example of better to lose now than later. I always say would be when Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia in the World Cup. Better to because they were on an unbeaten run. Better to lose now than later,
get it off
where
their
you
shoulders,
have to win everything. What it feels like, you have to win everything else now. But now it's like, okay, you lost to Leganés that are also kind of fighting relegation as well. But now you're just behind 2 points, Real Madrid. Your arch rivals, your in-city rivals, Real Madrid. And you have Leverkusen coming up in Champions League. It's like, okay, does it take the pressure off of like, okay, let's get that out of our system. Let's go to play Leverkusen, win. Keep fighting for those points. The last 2 games, of the Champions League phase, right?
True.
It's so interesting just to see how many moving parts there are. How do you approach every single next game? This is why I don't think I would be a good coach. But it's fun to dissect. Like, what is Diego Simeone thinking right now?
Yeah, and we saw, they were riding a huge wave of form. Like I said, Griezmann, yes, missed the penalty, kind of like how Kane missed the penalty for England in the last World Cup, right, against France. You rely on your big player to come up. On the odd day, it won't happen. But for Atleti, I think it's going to depend now, how do they react? Do they have the ability to brush themselves off and go again against Leverkusen, get back on the winning run? Or will Leverkusen go to the Metropolitano and inflict more damage on Simeone's men? It's going to be interesting.
It is going to be very interesting to see what plays out.
And it's going to be a crucial week as well for Simeone's men. But that, before we wrap up segment 1, actually, let's run through the 4 games we previewed
last week.
Yes. So, Frankfurt 2, Dortmund 1.
I feel like
I
feel like I called that scoreline.
Yeah.
Did I?
You said 3-1 Frankfurt.
I said 3-1?
So
okay.
you were close.
I was close.
You were close.
Close enough.
But, we expected Frankfurt to win.
Unfortunately,
and Dortmund go there and have very little to offer. Juve 2, Milan 0.
Tim Weah, U.S. international, scoring against Milan.
That's right.
Securing. I did think I was expecting a draw, but good for Juve to keep that unbeaten streak alive with a win.
With a win, not a draw. Not a draw.
Win, so huge result for them.
Sergio Conceição losing his first game. Away at the Bianconeri, always a difficult game. Juve take the 3 points there. How about Romelu Lukaku winning the game for Napoli 3-2? We did expect Napoli to win, but Atalanta putting up a fight as always.
3-2 is a bigger scoreline than I thought it was going to be. I was probably expecting like a 1-0, 2-1.
High score
but 3-2.
Napoli,
very fun game.
Napoli take the 3 points. Yes. They continued their hunt for the Serie A. And like we said, Brentford 0. Liverpool 2. You did expect that? Yeah, I was crossing my fingers and everything, praying and hoping.
For Arsenal, right?
Yeah. But no.
Now, Liverpool, again.
Liverpool doing their thing.
It's not really anything to talk about, just because it's like you already expected it. You already knew it was going to happen almost. Brentford, Liverpool are now the third side to win at GT this season, I believe. So good for Liverpool. A hard place to play away for teams, but nothing that I'm surprised about.
Forest, Arsenal, and Liverpool. The top three have been the only teams to beat Brentford at home. Isn't that something?
That's actually pretty impressive.
Yep. And it kind of makes sense.
But it makes sense because they're the ones competing for the title right now.
It does. So, with that being said, that is all for our recap. Stay tuned, though, because Champions League is back. Who do we think is going to come back with a bang? Stay tuned.
There. At Migaloo Pool, we make pool care easy, convenient, and hassle-free. We're your one-stop shop for everything your pool needs. Whether it's regular cleanings, equipment repairs, or even a completely pool remodel, our experienced team is ready to handle it all. You can trust us to keep your pool sparkling and running perfectly. Looking for supplies? Stop by our Orlando store. It's stocked with all essentials and extras to keep your pool in top shape. With Migaloo Pool, it's all in one place. Professional services, quality supplies, and a team that cares about your pool as much as you do. Let's make pool care simple and enjoyable. Contact us or visit our store and see how Migaloo can make a difference for you.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Pleased that you have stayed along for the ride because now it's time for segment 2, Patrick. Yes. And it's time to talk Champions League and preview the biggest games. We chose 5 of the Tuesday and Wednesday slate. Of course, the group phase is back. We're going to start with Atletico de Madrid against Leverkusen. Now, of course, we just talked about Atleti's, failure, right, at Leganés. We saw Leverkusen win again in the Bundesliga, 3-1 against Gladbach, which means they're only 4 points behind Bayern. Such an intriguing match, so I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, so Leverkusen are doing pretty solid, starting at 4th with 13 points. Atletico Madrid at 11 with 12, so only 1 point behind. But this is something that's really interesting about this Champions League format, that from 3rd place down to, I believe, 20 something, there's only a 6-point gap. So there's going to be so much movement with these games, with the next and final set of games for the league phase. There's going to be so much movement. So for Atletico to shoot back up into the top 8 to automatically qualify to the round of 16, it's going to be very interesting to see how they come out against Leverkusen, because Leverkusen, again, although they're only 1 point ahead, they're sitting at 4th. So Leverkusen are also going to be looking to hold on to that because they know how easy it is to fall under, go down a lot of places.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how Diego Simeone, coming off of that loss to Leganes, how he approaches this more talented Leverkusen side.
Of course. And we've seen Leverkusen, albeit at home. Yes, this is in Spain. But Leverkusen beat a side like Inter, right? Yeah. Previously in the Champions League, 1-0. And we know Inter like to set up, they're solid defensively, always under Simone Inzaghi. Again, Simeone is probably going to revert to a more defensive style for this. Of course, Leverkusen have the likes of Schick, Wirtz, Xhaka in the midfield, and Andrik in the midfield. Players that can hurt you. Yeah. And so it's going to be tough for Atleti to hold on against a side like Leverkusen, who, like we said, free scoring most of the time under Xabi Alonso, of course, his last season. He's going to want to leave with a bang. Yeah. So this game, very interesting to keep an eye on. Predictions. I'm gonna throw you right into it after this game.
1-1. A 1-1 with a goal from Griezmann.
Okay.
Redemption from missing the penalty, but Griezmann, I think he's been doing really good this year, especially with Atletico Madrid. Leverkusen, again, solid team, but it's just so close. I feel like just saying, one's in 4th, one's in 11th place, that's not doing it justice. Like, it's so tight and close. 1-1.
1-1. This is a tough one to call. I think if I had to choose one, if I was forced to choose one, I like Atleti at home. I'm not gonna. I think Leverkusen can find it a little difficult, but it's gonna be a tight game. I think only 1 goal separates these two sides. Let's move on. Benfica against Barcelona. Now we've seen, again, Barcelona falter in La Liga, similarly to Atleti. Benfica sitting, comfortably, I guess. In those kind of playoff spots. what do we think is going to happen at Estadio da Luz?
Okay, so again, kind of similar to Atletico Madrid, how are Barcelona going to respond to after drawing this past La Liga match day, right? How are they going to respond to Benfica, who are sitting at 15th with 10 points? So Barcelona, a bit more comfortable at 15 in second place in the league phase for the Champions League. And they're away.
Yeah, it's in Portugal.
It's going to be hard, I feel, because, I mean, Barcelona, out of those 15 points, 6 of them have come from away sides. So, not terrible.
Could this be a potential Monaco game? We saw them slip up against Monaco.
Yes, that's a
away
great,
from home.
A great way to put it.
Yeah.
But Benfica, they're a pretty solid side.
They're solid side.
They're not necessarily something that you're going to step over.
Right.
And it's hard to play away in Portugal.
It is.
There, especially. Oof.
And we've seen Benfica this season in Liga Portugal. They're 3 points behind Sporting at the moment, sitting in 6th. You know, it's sitting in 2nd, Benfica. It's a tough game to call because Barcelona, they have been great. Yes, they're sitting 2nd in Champions League. They've been, apart from that Monaco game, obviously, they've been good in the Champions League. But a game like this is a potential banana skin again for Hansi Flick's men. Are they going to be able to turn it around?
Honestly, I feel like maybe a draw. Another draw for
another
this
draw. Hey,
just because
I don't mind it.
It's weird because Barcelona are 6 out of their 15 points have come from away. Benfica's 4 out of 10 points have come from home. So they 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. They haven't been necessarily stellar at home, but maybe they'll feel more of a sense of urgency here because they know they're still very close to dropping out of the playoff spots for the next round. So, actually, maybe not a draw. I'm going to go 2-1 Benfica.
Oh, wow. So a second loss for Barcelona incoming? Interesting.
Yeah, I think Benfica are going to come out with more fire.
Okay. I can see that happening. If I had to choose one, I like your shout. If there's going to be an upset, I feel like it might be this one. It might be this one. Again, it depends. Can Lewandowski finish off his chances, right? How much of an impact is Yamal going to have? How are Benfica going to be able to close him down? It's going to be a very interesting matchup, like the first and like the third one we're going to talk about, Liverpool-Lille. Now, we threw this one in here, Patrick, because yes, of course, Liverpool 6 from 6 in the Champions League.
Yeah, perfect.
They've been faultless.
Perfect, yes.
But we've seen Lille. They've faced the likes of Real Madrid, beaten them comfortably, right? So at Anfield, it's going to be tough for them. Of course, it's tough for any team that goes to Anfield. But Lille will go there as a confident outfit.
Yeah, and I think they'll also be more than capable of getting a result.
Why not?
But it's also like, man, Liverpool.
It's a stretch.
Liverpool are just. It's just one of those teams right now where it's like, it doesn't feel like anybody can beat. At least in Champions League, 6-0.
They've been perfect.
I think they're gonna go 7-0.
Wow. Yeah. No, so I agree.
It'll be hard, though, because Lille are definitely gonna come out because they know, we beat Real Madrid. But again, Real Madrid also not having the Champions League season that we're used to seeing them have.
Very true.
This is a much more polished Liverpool side that could really easily, I feel, beat anybody else right now in Champions League. So I think I'm going to go with Liverpool on this one.
Yeah, I think so. And, Lille, like I said, they're going to go there and they're going to think, we can maybe take a draw. We can, who knows?
Sure.
1-goal win. But we saw the likes of Leverkusen go there and get absolutely thrashed at Anfield. And that's just the type of team Liverpool are this season. Unforgiving.
Yeah, you cannot mess up. You mess up once, the floodgates open, and then it's over. Like, they're just so clinical. It's almost feels like they do everything so perfectly,
They're playing a beautiful style of football under Arne Slot. Like we've talked about previously, it's not the rock and roll, gegenpressing of Klopp. Sometimes it is that, but now they also know how to play a more balanced style, a more controlled style, and it is helping Liverpool so far this season. So we talked about some of the the three, probably the big three on Tuesday. Here's some other games to look out for. Club Brugge playing Juventus. That's going to be an interesting away trip for Juventus away in Belgium. Can Dortmund win a game? Bologna on Tuesday. That's another interesting one.
I think so, because Dortmund are doing pretty solid in Champions League. They're only in 9th, 1 point behind Lille in 8th for the automatic round of 16 spot. I think they can get a result there. So I have confidence in Dortmund getting a result.
Okay, interesting. We have Monaco facing off against Villa. Interesting games, as you can see at the moment. So let's move on to Wednesday. We've chosen 2 from Wednesday to pick out, right? And we have PSG Man City. Undoubtedly the match of the week for Champions League at the Parc des Princes.
Yes.
These two teams are coming in near the elimination zone. PSG inside of the elimination zone. What is going to happen in France?
This is wow. I mean, it's just huge right now because PSG, they need a result from this one if they won't have any hopes of. They're not going to make it to the automatic spots.
Nope, that's a done deal.
Mathematically, they cannot. Well, technically they could, but realistically, it's not going to happen. They're going to be fighting for what they know is just that next round, 2 legs against another team to make it to the round of 16. That's what they're going to be playing for. Manchester City, 2 points ahead of PSG. So maybe achievable to make it to the automatic, to steal the last one, but I highly doubt it as well, just because there's so many teams ahead of them that are already 1 point behind or tied on points for those spots. Both teams are going to go into this game knowing that if either one loses today, it's probably wraps. Or it's going to be extremely difficult to sneak in on the final match day.
I was going to say that. We could reach up, we could be going into the next stage of the Champions League with PSG, City, and Real Madrid all playing, those extra 2 games.
Yes.
Or one of those 3 teams completely out of it.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? And that is what this new format, it's just thrown everything in the air.
Yeah, because now you have teams like Brest or Lille or Aston Villa who are doing really good. Just going out competing, and they're doing great. Whereas you have some giants that are struggling, like seemingly struggling. It's like, what's going on there? But it's brought all the drama. It's been so much fun.
It has, and this match is the battle of the Titans so far in the Champions League. It's all eyes on this game. I think personally, City go there and win. We have seen them start 2025 off, and it's no surprise. City, the year turns, and they flick a switch. They turn it on. Will this continue? Who's to say? This season has been completely different for City, something completely, unfamiliar for them. But I think PSG suffer a loss, and I'm going to say it right now, PSG are going to get eliminated from the Champions League, Patrick.
It's not a crazy shout. I think if they do lose this matchup, I think they're gone. I think it's their Champions League run is over.
Isn't that something? Isn't that crazy for PSG, a club which year after year fail to reach the expectation in Europe
every time?
It's crazy.
And it's interesting because they're one of the more historical clubs, not only in Europe but in France, especially France. You've seen the likes of so many talented players go there to win, to compete, but it's like.
They leave with a Ligue 1.
What is it?
Coupe de France, but nothing more.
Nothing more. But, what is it that's going on behind the scenes that's stopping them from achieving more?
Interesting. We're going for a City win. Of course, the game hasn't happened. Who knows what's going to happen? But PSG have an uphill task, especially with a City team that has scored 20 goals in their last 4 matches. We saw them thrash Ipswich 6-0 in the Premier League last weekend. So let's finish things off talking about Arsenal Dinamo Zagreb at the Emirates Stadium. Again, Arsenal going up against a side which is scrapping around for those playoff spots. They've only beaten the likes of Bratislava, the likes of Salzburg below them. But then we've seen them get thrashed 9-2 at Bayern, right? I don't think it'll be that, but Arsenal must win. Surely 3 points, take care of the job at hand and move on.
I think Arsenal are going to get the job done. Dinamo Zagreb, they're in the last possible position to get into the playoff spots.
There you go.
They're only 1 point ahead of PSG, so they're sitting at 8 points right now. Arsenal are in third with 13. So Arsenal are also going to be hoping to hold on to, again, because we just know how close it is up the top. They're going to be hoping to get a result. I'm sure they will, because Arsenal in Champions League, they're also doing really, really well. 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss.
Right.
But very good form in Champions League play. I think they'll get the job done because they know the urgency that's needed right now. It's crunch time for all of these teams. It's crunch time to get the last few points that you can. I think they'll get it done.
And also, we know the importance of getting into those 8 automatic spots.
Yes.
It's two less games. Less, wear and tear on your players, less of a burden. It's going to be interesting to see the results on Wednesday. A few other games. We have Leipzig Sporting in Germany. Can Leipzig win? Probably not. I mean, Sporting, visiting the Red Bull Arena there, it's going to be tough for them. Real Madrid Salzburg. It's kind of like an Arsenal Zagreb, right? We expect Real Madrid to get the 3 points. Feyenoord Bayern. Do you expect Bayern to go to the Netherlands and take 3 points?
I think so. Like, Feyenoord, they are a good team, but Bayern also, it's one of those giants that, sure, they might not be doing as good as we'd expect them to in Champions League, but I'm sure Bayern, they can pull out a 9-0 any time of the year when they feel like it. So it's one of those things. I don't think they'll do that to Feyenoord, but I'm sure they'll go and win comfortably.
And then, of course, Milan, Girona, and Celtic Young Boys to look forward to as well. A full slate of Champions League. We are right back into the swing of things with European football. Let's see who reaches those round of 16 spots and see who misses out. But stay tuned, though. Don't miss out on segment 3, where we will be talking about the rest of the big headlines all around Europe. Don't go anywhere.
Something new, something fresh, yeah, I'm super obsessed. Let me know when you done messing. A little that, a little this, then you put it to the test. It's all in the expression. It's a mood, it's a vibe, it's a state of mind. And now I want it more. It's a mood, it's a vibe, it's a state of mind. Okay, you got the floor, it's looking good. What kind of like that?
Alright, everyone, we are back for segment 3. Thank you for staying tuned. And now we have a lot to talk about, Patrick. Lots of headlines all across Europe to discuss, and none other than starting with Ruben Amorim. He has gone into United. All the hype, Sporting beat City 4-1.
Yes.
His last game in Portugal, oh my goodness, United are getting a good one. Which I think they did. But, joining a club mid-season is difficult. Changing the style of play is difficult.
Yeah.
They lost 3-1 to Brighton over the weekend. And after the match, Ruben Amorim, quote, "We might be the worst team in Manchester United history."
And it's not a crazy shout.
It's not.
Well, here's the thing, right? Just like you said, coming in mid-season, trying to change everything, it's very, very hard to do, right? Mm-hmm. And I also said, I don't know, maybe it's too early for him to leave. Finish the season with Sporting and then make the move. But again, United, desperate. They needed a coaching change. They needed to find somebody immediately to come and fill in those boots. However, this is more than a managerial issue.
It is.
This has always been more than that. Sure, they got rid of Mourinho. They've gotten rid of, Ten Hag. They've gotten rid of
Solskjaer.
Yes.
He went to Besiktas recently.
Yes, but it's like, it's one of those things where it's not necessarily the coaches. It just comes down to the players and the club. And
the recruitment.
The recruitment, the
has
spending.
Been so bad at
It's
United.
been horrible. You can't blame anybody but whoever's calling those shots, really. And most of the time, the coaches didn't even want those players by the time they came in.
Exactly.
They were already there. So they just have to work with what they got, and they can't just kick them out either. There's just so much that goes in financially with everything. There's just so many legalities of when it comes to contracts. Or just how are you going to build up this club from new, basically? How do you go into a rebuild? It's either you commit to a manager for a couple years because it's going to take a couple years. It's not something that can happen organically overnight, and it's the players. But it's like you can't. How do you cut some players in a way where you don't break any rules? Right. It's so complicated. Or how do you offer a player that doesn't want to move to another team? That kind of thing. So with Amorim, I think he just said the quiet part out loud. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's just the club, the player, everything from top to bottom, how it's run, it's in shambles. And it's been that way for well over 10 years now, I would say.
Ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left,
yes.
Manchester United have not been able to recover.
At all.
And it's not like Manchester United have a team of the quality of Leicester City, for example, who have lost 7 in a row.
On paper, they have good players. I think it's just a matter of who wants to be there and actually play for the club.
This team is a $500 million, dollar team. It's full of internationals. It's a team that has no excuses to be playing this poorly.
No.
And yes, okay, you can use the excuse of, we're changing to a 3 at the back in the middle of the season. Okay, but I mean, that then it goes back to Amorim. I feel like, what is he teaching? What are his philosophies in training? Is he jumping to things that are too advanced at the moment?
Well,
you should start with the basics and then grow from there. It looks like he's just thrown the players into the situation, and it hasn't helped. In that press conference,
I think I know he knows what each player is capable of, but he just doesn't have the players he needs to make it work.
He doesn't have the players he needs to play the style he wants. And he said, I'm losing more games than Ten Hag. Mm-hmm. And isn't that just crazy to think about? Like, we thought with Erik Ten Hag, it was the lowest of lows. Now, they're finding a way to somehow
go even lower.
Yeah, which is unbelievable. Ruben Amorim has a lot of work to do.
And it's assuming the board has patience with him.
But they have to. They're going to see out the season, surely.
The season, yeah, but I wouldn't be shocked if they let him go in the summer.
Wow.
If they continue to do poorly. Because we've seen it happen time and time again, how they don't give enough time to these managers.
They don't.
And they don't back them in the way that they should.
They don't. It's going to be tough because at the moment, he's already previously mentioned how they're in a relegation fight. That's not a crazy shout. For Manchester United, that should never, ever, ever happen.
That's not something you would ever associate with, right?
But that's the situation they're in. That is their reality. Brighton have won at Old Trafford 3 times in a row. Mm-hmm. Going to Old Trafford isn't a challenge anymore.
It used to be a place where you would fear playing.
Yes.
For every team.
Now you rock up there. You can
almost feel like, we can easily take a point or 3 away from these guys.
Yep. Not something. The culture at Manchester United is completely wrong. I think they should stick with Amorim. Even if this season they finish, 15th, 16th, which is completely realistic. Relegation. Probably won't happen.
But it's like the fact that they're even down there is remarkable.
It's bizarre to even use Manchester United and relegation in the same sentence. Yeah. We will see where Amorim continues driving this ship. Let's go to Spain. We briefly talked about 2 standout results there, but another one at the Bernabeu. Real Madrid 4, Las Palmas 1. Las Palmas took the lead early on.
Yes.
But then the Mbappe show arrived. 2 goals, 1 offside, so it could have been a hat trick. It was offside by the shoulder.
Don't even get me started on that. That's a segment by itself. What constitutes offside?
Stay tuned. We're gonna have a debate about that soon. You just wait and see. But let's focus on the good stuff for Real Madrid, and it is that A, their first place, and B, Mbappe looks to have turned his season around.
He seems to be getting more and more comfortable slowly but surely. Now we see him 2 goals and an assist, correct?
Yeah.
Against Las Palmas. So really good to see. It's just Las Palmas. But it's like he hasn't been there for the majority of the season so far. And now we're slowly starting to see him evolve and truly grow into his role at the club. So I think by the end of this season, I think it'll be more comfortable. And then come the start of the next season, I think is where we'll truly see just how comfortable he is at Real Madrid.
And he's a generational talent. That goes without saying. It was a bit harsh. Like, you can't expect him to score a hat trick every game. It's just not humanly possible. But even when he was like getting criticized and missing loads of chances and being offside 6 times in a game, he was still scoring goals. He was still scoring goals, but he was playing overall. General play was poor.
Well, think about it. He's been playing in France his entire career.
Exactly.
Completely different style. Comes to Spain for Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Already a lot of pressure right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different world.
Completely.
And so he's just one of those guys that needed time to adapt. And I think we're slowly starting to see the results.
The results, absolutely. It was a penalty that we've seen him miss penalties before this season. Comfortably. Slotted it home, no pressure. His second goal, beautiful finish with the side foot into that top corner. We're going to see Mbappe, I think hit a run of goals where he's unstoppable, and when he's in that form, Real Madrid are unstoppable.
Yeah.
And they have taken hold of the top of the league, taking it from Atleti.
That's another thing. If he can really dial in for these final couple months, it could be a lock for the title for Real Madrid.
It could be. I would not be surprised. Let's go from one striker to the next. Erling Haaland.
Oh, boy.
He's going to, just retire at City at this point, and maybe 9.5-year contract, something that is so rare in the world of football. What do we make of this? We saw him celebrate with a goal away at Ipswich, but 9.5 years.
Okay, here's the thing.
2034.
Something I've always thought about when players get contracts for like 6, 7 years, 9.5. I've never heard of.
Are you talking about Chelsea? Who have 20 players on.
But anyway, no, but it's like, some teams, it doesn't even matter the team.
Mm-hmm.
If you're offering a player that much time, usually it's kind of just to boost their stock, because they know if they do let them go, they'll get more money rather than let them walk as a free agent. That's how it always works. A good example would be Facundo Torres in Orlando City. Yeah. He literally signed a contract extension to 2026 or 27, and he goes to Palmeiras.
And he moves.
But
earn yourself a couple more million.
We get a little bit more from it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it is. Sometimes you do have to take these things with a grain of salt. He won't be. I don't think he'd be there for 9.5 years. But he could probably. I'd see him there for another 3, 4, 5, but not 9, not 10 years, not a decade. No.
Well, imagine now his value in the market. 500 million, easy.
Yeah.
Because, to buy him out of that contract would be just insane.
Nobody's going to do it. So
no, exactly.
Oh, man.
He is going to stay there. He's there to stay. I saw a funny stat.
Yeah.
If he does end up staying for the 9.5 years, which you think he won't, I probably can't see that as well. Because guess what? In a few years' time, guess who's going to come knocking on the door? Of Real Madrid. Most likely. That's just what they do.
That's just what happens.
That's just what they do. So, that's going to come in the future. But if he does stay at City, he is projected to score, listen to this, 371 goals.
Unreal. Could you imagine? But
isn't that just mind-boggling?
But the fact that his production over his last few years in the Premier League have been so high, it's not like a crazy number to think of. It's like, damn, that could really happen. It's not completely. I'm assuming he's healthy all the way through.
Yeah.
And still at least getting 15, 20 goal seasons
goodness.
plus 20 goal seasons, right? It's not a crazy shout.
He's only one behind Salah now. Salah leads the Premier League with 18. Haaland behind on 17.
And think about it. Haaland has kind of had an off season this year.
Absolutely.
And he's at 17.
Absolutely. He was not anywhere near the form. Of course, City went 13 and 1 win and 13. Haaland was not producing. He was not producing.
Think about that. That's just how good he still is.
Still. And also, just to put it into more perspective, think about the season Salah has been having.
Yeah, he's had arguably
much better season.
One of, if not his best season.
Yep.
Arguably.
And we're talking already about Salah being one of the PL greats of all time. Just imagine where Haaland is going to be in a few years. Unbelievable to even think about.
He's already been etched into the history books.
Yeah, already. He's already surpassed 100 goals with City.
Yeah, so imagine what else he's going to do in another 2, 3, 4 years' time.
Or 9.5.
Or 9.5.
An absolute monster at the number 9 spot. and City are you're gonna rely on him, and hey, not a bad person to rely on if you're looking for goals. Let's talk about some transfer rumors to round this episode off. Some very interesting rumors going around, and likely ones at that. Neymar. That's right, Neymar.
Neymar. He still plays?
Apparently. He's been at Al Hilal the last few years. Of course, got those terrible ACL injury. Recovering from that, I saw an interview about him talking about the 2026 World Cup. He's hopeful for it, but of course he needs playing time. He just can't jump into the Brazil squad again. Santos on loan is the word on the street, Patrick.
And this is something I was like, okay, that would make sense because Santos is
going back to his roots.
That makes so much sense. What didn't make sense was that there was serious interest from the Chicago Fire of MLS to bring him to MLS.
Imagine Neymar in Chicago.
Neymar getting coached by Greg Berhalter. Wow. But when I first saw that, I was like, that's total baloney. Like, that's not true. But there was serious contact there. Yeah. So many journalists were reporting on it. There was genuine interest. Of course, the financial side, it would have been something like Messi and what he's getting now at Miami. But to me, it's like, no, don't. Like, I like him, but I don't want to see him here necessarily.
That just doesn't fit.
Just because it doesn't fit.
No.
And I just feel like, dude, just go back to Brazil. Yep. Go back to Santos. I'd much rather see you go back to Santos. You know, he only played, 6 games in the last 2 years for Al Hilal. I don't trust in him enough that he's going to be healthy and take it seriously here. Because Neymar he's one of those players where it's like, he's just so incredibly talented. You know what he's capable of.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
It felt like at times he didn't take anything seriously. And I think he truly is, without a one of the best Brazilian players
of all time. Yeah.
But I really think he hasn't done himself favors where he knows. I think he knows deep down he could have been one of, if not the best, because just the way his career has turned out the last 5-6 years or so. Ever since he's left Barcelona, I think it's really like you've expected so much more out of it. But I always kind of felt like he's chasing the money. And I think that's what kills a lot of players' careers.
And also, yes, all the talent in the world, but you have to take care of yourself off the pitch. Yeah. We've seen him come back overweight. We've seen all these...
these not serious.
Yeah.
Of course, ACL, I mean, that happens. It's not something you can necessarily control.
But is that a result of that
lack
of care?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All things connect here. And Neymar, I hope he goes to Santos, and I hope he revives that spark, because he is still magical on the pitch.
And think about it. Yeah. Neymar, back in 2011, 2012, Neymar in Brazil, everybody knew him, right? But now imagine Neymar now. Neymar that's accomplished so much, and you're coming back to Brazil. Just the amount of traction that and attention he's going to bring back. And the love.
The love that
Despite
he'll receive.
everything.
And I think he needs that.
I think that's what he misses, because I don't think Saudi Arabia was a good move for him. Again, money. But I think Santos would do him really well, at least to cap off his career. I think that's what he needs.
I think, yes, Al Hilal earning $200 million a year. Yes, all well and good.
Oof.
But Neymar is one of those players who he needs to feel the love. He needs to feel like he's important. And Santos, imagine the stadiums if Neymar returns to Brazil.
Everywhere, not just... Everywhere, whether he plays against Botafogo, Flamengo, Palmeiras, whoever. At the end of the day, they're all Brazilians. They all loved him for the national team. They're going to be excited to play against him.
Even if
I would imagine.
Right. No, of course, absolutely. Just to witness that, right? Even if he has been a frustrating player for Brazil and for the clubs he's been at, there is something there. And of course, 2026 World Cup. He needs this move.
His last shout, though.
He needs this move to go well for him, especially. Yes. So we'll see what happens there. From Neymar, Patrick, here we go. Slide down the spectrum, because we're going to Antony. That is the correct reaction to that. Manchester United to Real Betis. Man. Fabrizio Romano gave it a here we go. A loan for the end of the season, going to Real Betis side, who... Can he refine form? Can he do
thing.
something?
Could this be the beginning of an exodus of players from Manchester United for Emery to truly start the rebuild? Because Antony,
not a bad start if this is it.
Like, think about it. That's kind of the way that I see it now. That I think about it. Alone until the end of the season. Do you know if there's an option to buy?
I don't believe so in this move, but you never know what comes from it.
If United are willing to loan him out, chances are he's going to be on sale come summertime.
I think so.
So, and Antony has been so mediocre for this United team.
That's putting it lightly.
Right. I'm trying to
for
keep
$70 million.
I'm trying to keep it PG here.
Yeah.
So, he's just been so
continue that
mid. Then. Like, it's
yeah,
it's one of those questionable things. It's like, wow, like you paid that much. Goes back to the whole Manchester United situation. So much money for a player that seemingly doesn't do a single thing on the field.
Nothing.
He's quite the character off the field, like online. Yes. It's fun, but it's like, man, on the field, like I would hate to have him on like a team that I support. Because it's just like, what a waste of. That sounds mean, but it's like almost like a waste of space.
It's harsh. I understand that.
But it's like,
but that is just the reality of it. He came in for $70 million, and Ten Hag took the approach of taking players from Ajax. Which he trusted, and yes, fantastic at Ajax.
Yes.
Antony built a name for himself.
Here's the thing, though. Ajax, the Netherlands, it's not the.
It goes back to the same thing.
It's so hard to transition because some players shine in these leagues, but they transition to a seemingly more bigger challenge, and they just can't do it. They cannot. They cannot keep up with the competitiveness. It happens, but it's like it's one of those things you need smarter insight on. I get it. Ten Hag coached him. He knew him, but did he really? Was he really that confident in believing that those skills can translate into the Premier League, arguably the most competitive league in the world?
We're going to see if this move does anything for Antony. Maybe, like we talked about Neymar, lights a spark. There's something deep in there. Can Betis be the place where he demonstrates that? It's going to be interesting to see. Likelihood is that it probably isn't, and he continues to be this kind of, squad player, if anything. But, Betis, they're not fighting for Europe, potentially. They're not going to be in the top four. They're going to be in that mid-table fight. Is that what he needs to reinvigorate himself? It's just interesting. Not much to be hopeful if I was a Betis fan, but you never know. Now, here's a name that you haven't heard in a long time. Dele Alli.
Yes.
Former Tottenham prospect. That was supposed to be the next big thing for England. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. He went to Everton, got released from Everton last season. Played in Turkey for a bit, right? Now he's going to Como FC in Italy, playing under Cesc Fabregas. That surely is a good move for him.
I love this move. Honestly, something we were talking about too, like just what Como in general is building with Cesc Fabregas. It feels so almost like peaceful. Like, it's weird.
A happy place.
It feels like
you want to go to Como.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen the actual picture of the stadium and its surroundings.
Right by the lake, right? Oh,
goodness.
It's paradise. Football
paradise.
Who
wouldn't want to play there?
And also, who wouldn't want to play for Cesc Fabregas?
Cesc Fabregas,
young manager.
I could see a potential like Xabi Alonso story in him as well.
Ooh, there's something in there.
There's something there. But I love what he's doing with Como. I love the culture that's being built within that city, that area, and bringing Dele Alli. We know what he's been going through. We know all the behind the scenes stuff now that has been brought to light, and now I think this is a great place for him to transition back into football. Kind of, sure, maybe he won't reach those heights that we all had hoped, but I think he can finally find a place where he's happy. He can, perform, be an important player for the team. And I think as long as he can achieve that, he will have done himself a great job in coming back from some terrible times in his own life. I think he'll do wonderful. I'm hoping nothing but the best for him.
Absolutely, and as an Arsenal fan, former Tottenham player, it's easy to hate on him, and it's easy to dislike him. But once you know the true story of what he's been through, it's so lovely, right? To see him, he's going to be back on the pitch. He's going to be playing. in a team that probably won't get relegated. I'm pretty hopeful that they'll stay in Serie A, and it's a project that even I kind of want to be a part of, right? It's Como FC. It's a nice story what they're building there, and like you said, all the best to Dele Alli. Let's see if he can find some form, because again, the talent is there. It's a theme with all these players. Yes. It's just a matter of unlocking it, right? Yes. And I think that might be the place where we see it happen. City have been making some moves. We know Omar Marmoush is heavily linked, but a player that we know for sure is going is Kusanov from Uzbekistan, making the move from Lens, 20-year-old center back. But here's the thing, price tag, 40 million for. I don't want to sound harsh, because Lens have been great recently in France.
Yes.
Got into the Champions League recently. Again fighting closer to the top of the league, but Kusanov is a gamble for City.
Could it be? Again, it's France. It's, I would say, a little bit less competitive than England.
Bit.
Is he really capable of handling, strikers in the Premier League? Salah, whoever else.
Havertz. I almost got you. I almost got you to say it.
But guys, of these
for sure.
These guys, not even, players from Nottingham Forest, players from Chelsea,
I was gonna say Chris Wood.
Anyone else, right? He's still really young too. Does he start right away? Maybe, considering the price tag they bought him for. But he's still really young. I feel like he needs at least another year or two to develop.
Or is this a player who Pep identified and is like, I see something in him, I can make this player better? Because we've seen him do it countless times.
But we've also seen him not do it plenty of times.
Hey, true.
So it's one of those things where it's like, if he's going for a purchase, I feel like with Pep, it's usually he buys somebody, they're already going to start. So, I mean, it's a great move for him.
Oh, but fantastic.
It's just I'm just worried, I don't want him to have such a rough season either, because think about it, he's the first player from Uzbekistan to play in the Premier League.
Huge.
A lot of eyes are going to be on him.
Yeah.
You don't want him to have a disastrous season.
No.
Because of the pressure. I do think Pep is going to do a good job at easing him into the squad. I don't doubt that, because Pep is an amazing manager. But it's going to be interesting to see how he fits into the system, whether he can adapt quickly or not to the Premier League, because it moves super fast.
Absolutely. And this might have been a move born out of the injury crisis that City have been experiencing this season.
Yes.
So best of luck to Kusanov as well, making the move from Lens to Manchester City. Much needed for City, I think. And who knows? Who knows? He might be the next big thing for City at the back. Let's round things off. Another team who needs a number 9, West Ham United. Under Julian Lopetegui, of course, got sacked. Terrible start to the season. Now under Graham Potter. And John Duran, from one claret and blue team to the other, Villa to West Ham, 57 million for a player who, yes, did great for Villa so far this season. Mostly coming off the bench. Impact sub when Watkins was injured, started games for Villa, scored goals for Villa, all fine and well. But this shows how desperate West Ham are if they're willing to almost give 60 million for John Duran, another young, overall inexperienced player.
Yeah, I mean, I like Duran too. I loved him when he was in Chicago.
His energy is fantastic.
I loved him when he was in Chicago. Yeah. I love the move to Aston Villa. He's still 21. He's had so many interesting, I think,
very quickly, right?
Right?
Yeah.
But he's been a lot of fun to watch. But I still think he needs just a little bit more time to hone in, dial in on those skills that he has. I'm not necessarily opposed to the move. I just don't think it's a good one right now.
He is still raw. He's still raw. And yes, he's played in the Premier League. Yes, he knows what that's like. But West Ham need him to hit the ground running. There's no betting in time for West Ham.
Yeah.
They need him. We saw them lose to Palace 2-0 this last weekend at home. West Ham are lacking big time. And we were talking about how poor West Ham have been at buying strikers. To think that Scamacca had a great career in Italy before heading to West Ham, I don't think he even scored 5 goals in the Premier League. Nicholas Füllkrug, another one. Went from Werder Bremen to Dortmund, was having a great time in Germany. Can't even run in West Ham, pulls his hamstring. John Duran is going to have a big task on his shoulders for West Ham.
Assuming that West Ham can get the deal done, because I know Aston Villa wanted a lot more for a still kind of unproven player. We'll see how this plays out.
Let's see if West Ham can get the move over the line. But Patrick, I think we got through it all so much.
Yes.
I mean, January is such a busy time of the year. So much to talk about. Thank you for joining me once again on the Nona Sports Show. Season 2, Episode 2. This is the end of it, unfortunately, but we will be back later in the week. A special guest coming in the podcast. Stay tuned for that. And also next week, we also have a very special guest lined up for you all. So, with that being said, from Patrick, from myself, from the Nona studio, and see you next week. Take care.